Hi, and welcome back to Version 2 Garage. Today, we're going to fix this. We're going to fix this workbench that was designed with fold-up legs so it could be mounted on the wall so it's not taking up space when it's not in use. When I built this table, it was actually mounted on a different wall. Well, that wall is no longer available. It now houses my cabinets. Now, I want to repurpose it and mount it on this wall. However, you can see I got a few obstacles. I've got my sprinkler control, which can be controlled by a phone, so it's okay that it gets covered. I've got some outlets I need to make sure I can get to when I need to. And just in general, I got some piping for stuff. And so I need to do something a little creative to get this mounted on the wall, but space off the wall to be able to cover all of this. If I mount this on the wall, I get a few benefits. Obviously, I get some space when it's not in use, but two, I get to place bins underneath that can house some remnants of wood and cut-offs and things like that. You know, the things that I may never use, but I won't throw away. Oh yeah, one more big benefit. We're going to remove some vertical storage. You know, the place that becomes long-term storage when it's not meant to be. I got that problem. Okay, so it's looking like the hardest thing I got to get around is this plug here for the irrigation system. So if I measure that here, it's about 2 3/4 inches. And I'm thinking 2 2x4s. Yeah, 2 2x4s sandwiched together, and one screws to the wall, the other one screws to it, and then a little mount system that the table can push up against and lean up. And then a latch here. Seems reasonable. And 3-inch screws here. Let's remove the tape. All right, so where I think I've landed is the bottom of the table is 34.5 inches. These are 8 inches long, so I'm gonna make, and the top of it here is 38 inches off the floor. So I'm gonna make 2 pieces, just for 2x4, that is 4 inches long. And then I'm gonna make some pieces from plywood, you know, stuff I just removed from the table. That's gonna be about a half an inch longer. So to bring it to that 34.5 inches. So let's do it. All right, so now let's install these. If I did my math right, that should be 34 inches from the floor. Yes. All right, now let's move it into place and see where we need to put our latch. I'm just gonna put a piece of tape in there. So it appears that this is gonna be ugly. Should work, but I'm gonna have to put 3 layers of 2x4 here to get to the approximate 4.5 inches that I need for the latch to work. So let's reposition and get ready. All right, so now let's mount the latch and see if this is actually going to work. In case it wasn't obvious, I did the screws this way so that they're not interfering with each other. I'm sure there's a prettier way to do this. £190. And if it wasn't obvious, I did the screws vertical in the front, hoping that this would cover it, and it did. So. This is just a cheap one, and it's terrible. Now let's clean off the table and see how it works. Now let's see it in action. I'm going to store it, show you how I intended it to be stored, and then how easy it is to put up and take down. So, all right. Store the board. Close the legs. What do you think? So, did it serve its purpose? Did I meet my goal? I think so. It's not pretty, but it's functional. We'll tell over time. One thing I would do different is I would, for my brackets here for the latch at the top, I would have extended those back two boards down about an inch so that the table has something to push up against. But it is not touching anything when it's latched and it's leaning forward. So it's not touching the outlets, it's not touching the plugs, it's not touching my irrigation controller. So I feel like it's a success. I did this with no design. I did it based off of similar what I had previously on the other wall, though I had to make a few changes. I learned this from someone else on YouTube. I don't remember who it was. It's been a few years now. So I think it's a good idea, especially when you're strapped for space. I do work in a 3-car garage here, and I can back out the cars whenever I need to open up the space. But it is really nice to be able to mount the table to the wall, to move the saw over, and to have this space available when necessary. So I think this is a huge win. Thank you for joining me at Version 2 Garage. It is greatly appreciated. I would also appreciate any constructive feedback that you may have, things I could have done differently related to this project, related to videoing, related to position of the camera, all the things that I'm still learning. So I welcome that constructive feedback. My reason for doing these projects and putting it out there for others to see and criticize and critique is because I want to build smarter. I want to build smarter through active learning. I want to refine through application, and I want to iterate through continuous improvement. So I do welcome constructive feedback.